Welcome to the Teaching You to Fish podcast, financial literacy for the rest of us. My name is Carl Fish, and I'm the host of this podcast. This is episode 9, Credit Card Rewards. In episode 8, we talked about the dangers of debt and specifically how improper credit card use is an existential threat to your financial security. Before you listen to this episode, make sure you listen to that one first. I want to re-emphasize my definition of responsible credit card use. If you're going to use credit cards, you must be comfortable setting them up to be automatically paid in full each month from your spending account. If you don't think you can commit to doing that, if you aren't sure that you'll be able to have your credit card bills paid in full automatically each month, then you shouldn't use them, and you don't need to listen to the rest of this episode. But if you can, then credit cards can be a useful addition to your financial life. Before we get into the fun part of this episode, talking about credit card rewards, I want to first step back and talk a bit about your credit score. Your credit score is a number that, theoretically, reflects your creditworthiness, how likely you are to repay your debts on time. Credit scores typically range from 300 to 850, and higher is better. They are calculated using information from your credit report. Various credit agencies compile the report that creates your credit score. Your credit score is based 35% on your payment history, 30% on your credit utilization, how much you owe compared to the total amount of credit available to you, 15% on the length of your credit history, 10% on your credit mix, having different types of debt, including mortgage, car loans, and credit cards, and 10% on how much new credit you've taken out recently. You are entitled to check your credit report at any time at annualcreditreport.com, and many credit cards themselves allow you to check your credit score through their app or website. What many people don't realize is that your credit score is important not only to get additional loans or credit cards, but it helps determine the interest rate you'll get on those loans and credit cards. In addition, some employers and landlords also look at your credit history when deciding whether to hire you or rent an apartment to you. And even insurance companies use them to help set your insurance premiums. Many people who have been warned about the danger of credit cards and therefore have avoided them completely often later have trouble getting car loans and mortgages because they don't have a credit history. For this reason, everyone should likely get at least one credit card when they are first starting out and use it at least a minimal amount, and, of course, pay it in full each month. This will start your credit history and begin building up your on-time payment history. Another great strategy is for parents to add their teenage children as users on one of their credit cards, as this also can be a way to start their credit history in a way where you can easily monitor and advise them on their use of credit. Now that we have a basic handle on the importance of your credit score and how it's calculated, let's talk about how you can use credit cards to enhance your finances. Again, this only applies to you if you can use them responsibly, setting them up to pay in full automatically each month from your spending account. If you're disciplined enough to use credit cards like this, then take advantage of them. First, credit cards can be helpful as a way to keep track of your spending, so you can identify areas where you are perhaps spending more than you thought. It's easy when spending cash or even using a debit card to not notice how much you are spending on Starbucks, as just one example, not trying to pick on Starbucks. But if you use a credit card and then take a moment to examine your statement each month, you'll get a better idea of what you are actually spending money on. Review the categories in light of opportunity costs and your definition of the good life, and make any changes that better align your spending with your values and goals. Second, credit cards offer you some protection from fraud. Unlike using cash, a check, or even a debit card, if someone gets a hold of your credit card information and makes purchases on your account, you are generally not liable for those purchases. In addition, if you make a purchase but then there's some kind of problem with it, for example, it doesn't get delivered or the product or service wasn't what was specified, you can dispute the charge, and usually the credit card company won't pay the charge, and you won't have to pay the credit card company until the dispute is settled. Third, as hard as it is to believe, there are many credit cards that actually pay you to use them through sign-up bonuses and cashback or travel points. The reason they do this, of course, is to take advantage of folks who will then spend more and or not pay off their balances each month and therefore pay interest. So you only want to take advantage of these offers if that won't be you. Credit card rewards can definitely be a rabbit hole, so I will give you some basic information and then direct you to some more in-depth resources to learn more. Just keep in mind that you can decide how much effort you want to put into this, how far down the rabbit hole you want to go. Even if you only venture as far as the entryway of the rabbit's burrow, to stretch the metaphor, it can still be very lucrative for you. I sort of kind of think of three broad categories of people in terms of credit card rewards: regular users, cashback optimizers, and advanced travel point experts. Regular users are people who use credit cards responsibly and know they get cash back on their credit card purchases. This is often the standard 1% cashback on purchases, but some of these folks have branched out a bit and have several credit cards because they know some of those credit cards have higher cashback offers in certain categories. Maybe 3% on gas stations or 5% on rotating categories each quarter. These people are definitely getting some cash back, but they don't have the knowledge or haven't taken the time to optimize their credit card use. This leads into the second category, cashback optimizers, and I think this is a great place for most people to start. In fact, this is where I started and, for the most part, where I still am. These folks are not only more intentional about aligning their credit card use with the various different cashback offers, but they realize that the big bucks in cash back from credit cards come from the sign-up bonuses. A sign-up bonus is when a bank offers a special bonus if you spend a certain amount of money in the first few months of signing up for a new card. These bonuses typically range from $100 to $1,000 worth of cash back, although you can also sometimes use those rewards in ways other than just straight cash back. The spending requirements to get the bonus usually range from $500 to $5,000, and you typically have 3 months to complete that level of spending, although sometimes it can be longer. The great thing is that most people can meet these minimum spending requirements with just their regular monthly spending. An important reminder that you should do this only if you are disciplined enough to use these credit cards for your regular spending, and not use this as justification to increase your spending and buy things you don't need. I'm going to share some examples a bit later in this episode, but a great place to learn more about cashback optimization is Cash Freely. The third category is more of an expert level of using credit card rewards. While I've dipped my toe into this, I haven't gone deep. These are folks who use credit card rewards for travel, because it turns out that the points you earn with credit cards can be more valuable when used for travel than when used for cash back. For people who travel fairly frequently and who want to spend a little bit of time and effort, this can result in even higher rewards because your points are often worth 25% to 50% more when used for travel. This is often referred to as travel hacking. I will also share some examples of this, but Travel Freely is a great place to learn more. In addition, there are many free mini courses to learn more about travel hacking, including these two from ChooseFI and The Mad Fientist. Before I get to some examples, I often get pushback when talking about credit card rewards. The pushback is often that it seems like it will take a lot of time and effort to do this, and people just don't want to bother or think the rewards aren't worth the effort. In reality, it doesn't take much time and effort at all, and the ratio of rewards to time and effort is actually quite good. I've written a few blog posts to try to illustrate that. What many people don't realize is that it doesn't take much time at all to sign up for a new credit card. Set it to autopay once you receive it, and then use it to make the minimum spend to get the sign-up bonus. In general, that should take you less than 30 minutes total. And even after that, it doesn't take much additional effort to make sure you're using the best credit cards for certain categories of spending to optimize your cash back. This is especially true since so much of our regular spending now is automatically charged to a specific credit card. So you simply set that up once and you're good to go. The only real cognitive load I have around credit card spending is which card I use at the grocery store each week, because we rotate through several throughout the year to maximize our cash back. Here are the main cards that we're using right now. Names and links on the slides for those of you just listening. To be clear, these might not be the best ones for you. These are also just a snapshot in time as the cards we have change over time. Note that some of these links are also referral links, which means that if you end up signing up for the card by using the link, I will get some additional rewards myself, without impacting the rewards you get. If this bothers you, you can always just Google the name of the card and get to it that way, and I won't get the referral points. As a side note, getting referral bonuses is yet another way to increase the value of credit card rewards while simultaneously helping out your family and friends. So let's take a look at just how much you can earn in credit card rewards when you're a bit more intentional with your credit card choices. Open this Google spreadsheet by typing in the link or clicking on the link in the slides. It will ask you to make a copy so that you have an editable version. Click Make a Copy. This spreadsheet allows you to enter the credit cards you have or the ones you potentially might get and see how much cash back you can generate from the sign-up bonuses and the regular cash back rewards. At the bottom, it then explores how much that can amount to if you also choose to invest those rewards. There are spaces for up to 10 credit cards, but of course you don't have to use all 10 spaces. And if you want to do more than 10, you can always make a copy of the spreadsheet and do as many as you like. I'll go through credit card number 1 in columns B through D to illustrate how to add your current or potential credit cards to the spreadsheet. Then I'll switch to an already completed spreadsheet that shows the cards we currently have to see what this can look like. I'll use the American Express Blue Cash Preferred card for my example. So I'll type that name in place of the placeholder of credit card number 1. Then, starting in cell B2, I will populate various categories that this card earns different percent cash back on. This particular card earns 6% back on groceries and streaming services. So in cell B2, I will type in 6%. Moving to the right, cell D4 is there to enter how much you typically spend in a month in this category. One thing to be careful here is that many credit cards have a limit on how much cash back you can get in any particular category. For this card, the most you're allowed to get the 6% back on for groceries is $6,000 in spending in a year. So in cell D2, you want to make sure you don't put a number that ends up exceeding the limit for the category. I'm going to put in $560, assuming you spend $60 a month on streaming services and at least $500 a month on groceries. Many folks will spend much more than $500 a month on groceries, but because the card caps the 6% back at $6,000 in total spending on groceries in a year, I took the $6,000 and divided it by 12 to get $500 total for groceries each month that I would be eligible to get the 6% back on. This card gives 3% back on gas and transit, so in cell B3, I'll type 3%. To the right, in cell D3, I'll put $150 as an example amount you might spend on gas and transit each month. This card then gives 1% back on all other spending, so in cell B4, I'll put 1%. If I use this card for things other than groceries, streaming, gas, and transit, then in cell D4, I would put the amount I spend on everything else each month. I'm going to leave this at $0, assuming that you hopefully have at least one card that gives you more than 1% back on everything else, and would use that for all other purchases. Cell B5 is a space for one more category, but in this case, there's only 3 distinct percent cash backs, so I can just leave this one alone. Cell B6 is for any net annual fee this card charges. Many cards don't charge an annual fee, so for those, you would leave this at $0. But for those cards that do, you want to calculate the net annual fee. By net, I mean you put in the annual fee that is charged, but you also subtract off any annual benefits you might get just for renewing the card. Some cards have annual benefits that easily offset some of that annual fee, and some don't. In the case of this card, the annual fee is $95, and there aren't really any offsets that people typically use, so I'll type in $95 in cell B6. Then to the right, there's a second annual fee cell for the first year you have the card. This is because many cards with annual fees waive the fee your first year. This card does, so I'll leave this at $0. But it's important that if the card you are entering has an annual fee that also applies in the first year, that you type that amount in cell D6 as well. Cell B7 is for any sign-up bonus that you can earn with the card. For this card, that's $250. Cell B8 is for any multiplier. Some cards take the points you earn from spending and multiply it by a factor like 1.25 or 1.5 if you spend the points in certain areas, typically through a travel portal. In this case, there is no additional multiplier, so I'll leave it at 1.0. Do not make this 0, as it will cancel out all of your cash back. It should always be 1 or higher. We've now completed the information for this card. Cell B9 now displays the cash back you earned in the first year, which includes any sign-up bonus. For the sample numbers I used, that amounts to $707. Cell B10 shows the cash back you earn in subsequent years when you do not earn the sign-up bonus. For the sample numbers I used, that's $362. Then in cells D12 and D13, we have our usual, what if we invested these savings, factors. As in previous episodes, I'll use an assumed annual rate of return of 7% and see what happens if it's invested for 30 years. Cell D15 then shows me that, with the sample numbers I used for this card, my portfolio value after 30 years would be $42,563. Not bad for less than 30 minutes worth of work. You can now repeat this process with all the cards you have, or the cards you are considering, by scrolling to the right and using the columns for credit card number 2, number 3, and so on. Now let me switch to a copy of the spreadsheet that shows our current credit cards to give you an idea of what this can look like when the spreadsheet is completed. I'm married, so for some credit cards, we each have our own, which allows us to get the sign-up bonus twice and to exceed some of the spending caps. For example, for the American Express Blue Cash Preferred card, we spend way more than $6,000 in a year on groceries, so we each have a card so that we can effectively spend $12,000 a year on groceries and get 6% back. We also spend about $30 a month on streaming services, so I've entered $530 for our first Amex card and $500 for the second. Because we own EVs, we don't spend any money on gas, but that's a category that most folks would have a non-zero number in. Scrolling to the right, we have an Amazon Prime Visa that gives us 5% back on all Amazon purchases, and sometimes 6% if we choose slower shipping. Then we have the Chase Sapphire Preferred card, which is the first card on this list that is primarily used for travel rewards instead of cash back. After the initial spend to get the sign-up bonus, again for both of us, so times 2, we don't use this card all that much, but keep it because it gives us a multiplier of 1.25 for points on all of our Chase cards, other than the Amazon Chase card, unfortunately. You can see that multiplier of 1.25 in cell K8. Then we each have a Chase Freedom Unlimited and a Chase Flex card, which gave us the sign-up bonuses, but 2 of them also have 5% rotating categories each quarter, and the first quarter includes groceries. Since we exceed $12,000 a year in groceries, which maxes out the grocery rewards our 2 American Express cards give us, we use these Chase cards for groceries during the first quarter, and then the American Express cards for the rest of the year. Note that there is also a multiplier of 1.25 for these Chase cards, because we can transfer the points to our Sapphire card, and therefore get the multiplier, as long as we use the points in the Chase Travel Portal. Or sometimes we transfer them to travel partners like Southwest Airlines, where they're often worth around 1.6x. As we continue to scroll to the right, you can see our remaining cards, with our most recent acquisition, the Capital One Venture card, in the spot for credit card number 10. This is another travel rewards card, as it earns 2% back on every purchase, but you use the rewards to offset any travel-related expenses you make on the card. Because the Chase Travel Portal doesn't work with things like Airbnb, this is the card we tend to use to offset some of our Airbnb costs when we travel, as well as any other travel-related expenses we can't book through the Chase portal. Scrolling back, you can see in row 9 the first year earnings for each of our cards. In row 10, you can see subsequent year earnings for each card. And in row 15, you can see what your portfolio value for each card would be if you took that cash back and invested it for 30 years. Below that, in row 17, you can see the sum of all 10 cards. For the cards we have and the numbers I've entered, that amounts to almost $170,000. Not bad for a total of less than 5 hours of work. That's total hours for all 10 cards. And even that is underestimating this a bit. First, credit card rewards are generally tax-free, although referral bonuses are often taxable. Which means that when you look at the yearly earnings from each card, that's tax-free money. So increase that by 30% or more, depending on your marginal tax brackets, to figure out how much you would have to earn at your job to net that amount of money after taxes. Once you invest it, the investment earnings may be taxable depending on where you invest. But if you choose to use this cash back to help you fund your HSA or a Roth account, which we'll talk about more in future episodes, then that entire $168,000 in this example would be completely tax-free. If you think of this as an hourly wage, that's about $33,600 per hour. And one more thing. These 10 cards are a snapshot in time. This is what we currently have. But we typically get 2 to 3 new cards each year, with sign-up bonuses, and occasionally downgrade or cancel old cards. This is because the big money is from the initial sign-up bonus. And then we can be strategic with the various cash back categories to maximize our ongoing cash back by aligning those with our spending. So our actual total portfolio value after 30 years will likely be much higher than this because we'll continue to add new cards with new sign-up bonuses. And of course, if you start this in your 20s, you will do this for many more than 30 years. And the power of compound interest kicks in even more. All for less than 30 minutes of work for each card. That's a pretty good return on your investment of time. Now, complete your own copy of this spreadsheet. Put in the appropriate information for the cards you currently have, and consider exploring the possibility of adding additional new cards, either from the ones we use and I've linked to, or by exploring the Cash Freely or Travel Freely websites. If you are taking notes throughout this series, take a screenshot of your spreadsheet and paste it into your notes, as well as a link to your copy of the spreadsheet for future reference. Then write a paragraph or two reflecting on this exercise. If this is intriguing to you, check out Cash Freely, Travel Freely, or the 2 mini courses on travel rewards to learn more. Remember, you can choose how far down the rabbit hole you want to go, so don't feel like this is an all or nothing type of decision. If you're comfortable sharing your reflection, there are several ways to do that. If you're watching or listening to this on Spotify or YouTube, then you can leave your thoughts and/or your feedback or questions in the comments. You can also always reach out to me directly on social media or via email. I'm Carl Fish on Blue Sky, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube, or you can email me directly at carlfish@gmail.com. Hopefully this episode has shown you how credit cards, if used responsibly, and again, used responsibly is very, very important, can be a significant positive addition to your finances. In our next episode, we'll talk about everybody's favorite topic, taxes. And believe it or not, I actually do like thinking about and talking about taxes.